Hello everyone, welcome back to our poetry channel, Poetry Surprises. And today I want to read the sixth poem in the sequence that was written for Saint Clémentin, Shapeshifter. And from the War Memorial, if you remember that rather sad elegy, we move along the road to the schoolhouse, which is called, in fact, the canteen, because that's what it is today. But it was the house, one of the grandest houses in the town, of just 500 people, as I said, which in the Second World War was occupied by the Germans. They came in across the north of France and they occupied Saint Clémentin, as they did every other small town around the Deux-Sèvres region, which is where Saint Clémentin is situated, and they used the building that I'm referencing in this poem as a headquarters, and they just kicked out the person who lived there. And there were lots of stories about the resistance. I picked them up as I was walking around the town. People used to come and tell me because they'd heard of this sequence of poems. And they started telling me about what happened, how certain people were captured and shot for being in the resistance, how the neighbouring towns suffered. So this poem is really about identity. It's about how you can lose your identity, how identity can transform from being one that is yours to one that belongs to an occupier. So this poem, The Canteen, asks the question, you ask me how the mind becomes madness. Here is how the mind becomes madness. What when armies sweep in, batter on your door, break it down and choose a room to sleep and taint your women? What when the tongue of your governors is not your tongue? What when the bread you break does not belong to you? What when your stories are retold to fit the hearts of others? What when you cannot walk your streets and parks without turning your gaze to stone? What when your church is empty, your gramophones silent, your books chosen for you or burnt? What when you can't say I or daren't say mine? What when the clothes on your back are strange and worn? What when you distrust your neighbour? What when your children look to the enemy for fear and security? What when the land is put to foreign use, your crops feed falls, your kine are killed to fuel distant fields while you go hungry? What when the bars keep good wine from your lips? What when your mayor is not your mayor and you cannot crack a joke at his expense? What when the water from your well tastes sour and you test the pail on dogs before you drink? What when the darkness is not friendly, for the lowing of herds presages danger? What when you want to cry at night but can't for fear you may be heard? What when the flag that lifts your heart is struck for the flag that buries all hope? What when the air stifles and chokes? What then? What then? What then? This is how the mind becomes madness. And each of those incidents was described to me by people in the town, the elderly who remembered the German occupation, and in a nearby town I also heard the story of the striking of the flag, the tricolore being brought down and the Nazi flag put up, and the sheer terror that it inspired in people. In these places, which you have to remember at the time were much more isolated than they are today. You couldn't just drive from Paris It was a long way, uh, uh, quite terrifying, and I must admit, quite moving to read that with local people around, and they certainly seem to appreciate it. And as I say, a remarkable period in that small town's history. Anyway, I'll move on to more fantastical things with the next poem. Maybe tomorrow, I'm going to chop and change. I'm not going to do the same sequence every day. But the next one is a windmill. Up until I see you next tomorrow, have a good day, enjoy yourself, subscribe to the channel, and see you soon. Bye!